You hear your phone ring at 2:47 the morning. The sound cuts through the silence like broken glass scraping concrete. Your heart already knows before your mind catches up. Nothing good ever comes at this hour. You fumble in the darkness, your fingers shaking as the screen lights up your face with cold blue light. It's the police station. Your daughter's name falls from the officer's mouth like a stone dropping into still water, and suddenly you can't breathe. You're already reaching for your keys. Already running barefoot down the hallway. Already praying to a God you're not sure is listening anymore. I'm Sarah Mitchell. I'm 43 years old. I thought I understood pain. I buried my mother at 19, survived a divorce that nearly broke me, raised a daughter alone while working double shifts at a diner that smelled like burnt coffee and broken dreams. I thought I knew what it meant to hurt. But nothing prepared me for the night my daughter looked at me through iron bars and said, "I wish you were dead." The fluorescent lights in that police station hummed like dying insects. The air tasted metallic, like blood and fear mixed together. My daughter Lily sat behind a metal table, her wrists in handcuffs, her mascara running down her face in black rivers. She was 21 years old. She was supposed to be finishing college. She was supposed to be safe. Instead, she was being charged with assault. "Mom," she said, and her voice was a stranger's voice, cold and hollow and filled with something I couldn't recognize. "I don't want you here. I don't need you. I never needed you." The officer standing behind her shifted uncomfortably. The wall seemed to close in. My knees wanted to give out, but I forced myself to stand there, to look at this girl I'd carried in my body, nursed through fevers, taught to ride a bike, held through nightmares. This girl who now looked at me like I was the nightmare. "Lily, what happened? Tell me what happened, baby. Please. Don't call me that." Her words were razors. "You don't get to call me that anymore. You never protected me. You never saw anything. You were always too busy, too tired, too useless to notice." Each word was a bullet. Each word found its mark. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. The officer cleared his throat. Somewhere down the hall, someone was crying. The sound echoed off the concrete walls like a wounded animal. "Ma'am," the officer said quietly, "maybe you should go home. Your daughter has made it clear she doesn't want you here right now." But I couldn't move. I stood there staring at her, at this person wearing my daughter's face, and I tried to understand how we got here. How did the little girl who used to hold my hand crossing the street turn into someone who wanted me gone forever? "There's been a mistake," I whispered. "My daughter wouldn't, she's not violent. She wouldn't hurt anyone." Lily laughed. It was the worst sound I'd ever heard, sharp and broken and full of something ancient and terrible. "That's the problem, Mom. You never knew who I really was. You never wanted to know." The officer touched my elbow gently. "Ma'am, please. You need to leave now." I backed away slowly, my eyes still locked on Lily's face, searching for any trace of the daughter I knew. But she'd already turned away from me, her shoulders hunched, her head down. That was 3 months ago. 3 months of silence. 3 months of unanswered calls and returned letters. 3 months of lying awake at night wondering what I'd done wrong, what I'd missed, how I'd failed so completely that my own child wanted me erased from existence. I thought that night in the police station was the worst pain I'd ever feel. I was wrong. Because 4 days ago my phone rang again at 2:47 the morning. Same time, same cold blue light. But this time, the voice on the other end was different. This time, it was Lily. And she was screaming. Before that night, before the handcuffs and the hatred and the words that carved holes in my chest, life was simple. Not perfect, never perfect, but manageable. Predictable. The kind of ordinary that you don't appreciate until it's ripped away from you. Lily was born on a Tuesday in April during a rainstorm that knocked out the power in half the city. I held her for the first time in near darkness, just candlelight flickering against the hospital walls, and I made her a promise. I whispered it against her tiny forehead while she slept. I will always keep you safe. Always. For 21 years, I thought I was keeping that promise. We lived in a small apartment on the 3rd floor of a building that was older than both of us combined. The pipes clanked in winter, the windows didn't quite close all the way, but it was ours. Every morning, I'd wake up before dawn to make her breakfast before school, scrambled eggs and toast, sometimes pancakes if I had time. She'd stumble into the kitchen half asleep, her hair a mess, and we'd sit at our tiny table in comfortable silence. Those mornings feel like they happened in another lifetime now. "Mom, you're gonna burn the eggs again," she'd say, grinning. "I like them crispy." I'd shoot back, "You mean you like them burnt?" We'd laugh. God, we used to laugh so much. Her father left when she was 3, just walked out one morning and never came back. No explanation, no goodbye. Just an empty closet and a note on the kitchen counter that said, "I'm sorry, I can't do this." I never showed Lily that note. I told her that her father loved her very much, but that sometimes adults have to make hard choices. I told her it wasn't her fault. I told her she was loved, so loved, more than the whole world could hold. I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. Breakfast shift at Ruby's Diner from 6 to 2, then evening shift at a call center from 4 to midnight. I'd come home exhausted, my feet screaming, my voice hoarse from taking orders and reading scripts to strangers who didn't want to hear from me. But Lily never went without. Not once. She was a good kid. Straight A's. Never got in trouble. She had this way of seeing the world that was different from other kids, gentler somehow, more thoughtful. She'd bring home stray cats and cry over dead birds we'd find in the parking lot. She'd save her allowance to buy Christmas presents for kids whose families couldn't afford them. "Why do you care so much?" I asked her once when she was 13, watching her wrap a donated toy with the kind of focus other kids reserved for video games. She looked at me with those big brown eyes, her father's eyes, and said, "Because somebody has to, Mom. If we don't care about each other, what's the point?" I should have known then. I should have seen that a heart that open, that sensitive, was a heart that could be broken too easily. When she turned 18 and got accepted to the state university 40 minutes away, I cried for 3 days straight. Not because I wasn't proud, God. I was so proud I could barely breathe, but because I knew things were changing. She was leaving, growing up, becoming someone separate from me. "I'm not going far, Mom," she'd said, hugging me tight in the doorway of her dorm room. Boxes stacked around us like the walls of a new life. "I'll come home every weekend, I promise." She kept that promise. Every Saturday, she'd drive back to the apartment and we'd have dinner together. Sometimes we'd watch movies. Sometimes we'd just talk about her classes, her new friends, her dreams of becoming a social worker. "I want to help people like us, Mom," she told me one night, her head on my shoulder as we sat on our old couch that sagged in the middle. "People who are just trying to survive, people who need someone to believe in them. You're going to change the world, baby," I whispered into her hair. I believed it. I believed her life was unfolding exactly as it should. But there were signs. Small things I didn't see, or didn't want to see. The way she started checking her phone constantly during our dinners, her face going tight with worry. The way she'd flinch when someone raised their voice on TV. The way she stopped talking about her friends, stopped mentioning anyone by name. "How's school?" I'd ask. "Fine." "Make any new friends?" "A few." "Anyone special?" "Mom, stop." I told myself it was normal. College kids were busy, they got stressed, they needed space. I told myself she was just growing up, becoming independent, learning to handle life on her own. I told myself everything was fine. Then one weekend, she didn't come home. She texted saying she had too much homework. I believed her. The next weekend, same thing. Then the weekend after that. Lily, are you okay? I called her, trying to keep the worry out of my voice. I'm fine, Mom. Just busy. I'll see you soon. But soon kept getting pushed further away. Weeks became months. Her texts got shorter. Her calls stopped altogether. I drove to campus once, unannounced, because something in my gut told me to. I knocked on her dorm room door. Her roommate answered, a girl with purple hair and tired eyes. Is Lily here? The girl hesitated. She doesn't really stay here anymore. What do you mean? She's always at her boyfriend's place. Has been for months. Boyfriend. She'd never mentioned a boyfriend. Do you know his name? Another hesitation. Marcus. Marcus Chen. But listen. I don't think you should. Where does he live? The girl gave me an address. I could see in her eyes that she wanted to say more, wanted to warn me about something, but I didn't wait. I got back in my car and drove across campus to an apartment complex that was nicer than anywhere I'd ever lived. I knocked on apartment 4B. No answer. I knocked again, harder this time. The door opened. A man stood there, mid-20s, handsome in that easy, careless way that some people are. He smiled at me like we were old friends. Can I help you? I'm looking for Lily Mitchell. I'm her mother. His smile didn't change, but something in his eyes did. Something cold flickered there and disappeared so fast I thought I'd imagined it. Oh, Mrs. Mitchell. Lily's told me so much about you. He extended his hand. I didn't take it. She's not here right now. She's at the library studying. But you should come in and wait. I'm sure she'll be thrilled to see you. Everything in my body told me not to enter that apartment. But I ignored it. I stepped inside. The place was immaculate. Expensive furniture, huge TV, kitchen that looked like it had never been used, and photos, dozens of photos on the walls. Marcus playing soccer, Marcus at parties, Marcus with groups of smiling people. Not a single photo of Lily. Your daughter is amazing, Marcus said, moving toward the kitchen. Can I get you something to drink? Water? Coffee? Where is she really? He turned, and this time the smile was gone. I told you, library. Her roommate said she's always here. Her roommate doesn't know what she's talking about. His voice was still calm, but there was an edge now, sharp as a knife. Lily and I are very happy. She's very happy. You should be grateful she found someone who actually appreciates her. The way he said it made my stomach turn. I want to call her. Right now. She left her phone here. She's always forgetting it. He picked up a phone from the counter, Lily's phone. I recognized the case. See, she'll be back soon. You can wait if you want. I didn't wait. I left that apartment and drove straight back to campus, searching every library, every coffee shop, every place I thought she might be. I called campus security. I called her friends whose numbers I had. Nobody had seen her. 3 hours later, my phone rang. Lily. Mom, what the hell? Marcus said you just showed up at his apartment? Lily. Where are you? That's none of your business. You can't just stalk me like this. I'm an adult. I'm worried about you. You haven't come home in months. You don't return my calls. Because I'm busy. Because I have a life that doesn't revolve around you anymore. God, Mom, why can't you just trust me to live my own life? I do trust you. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. I'm more than fine. I'm happy. Something you never were. The words hit me like a punch. Lily, that's not fair. It's true. You were always miserable. Always tired. always complaining about money and work and how hard everything was. Well, guess what? I found someone who actually makes me happy. Someone who doesn't make me feel guilty for existing. I couldn't speak. My throat had closed up completely. I need you to stop checking up on me. Stop calling Marcus. Stop showing up places. Just leave me alone, okay? Lily, please, if something's wrong. Nothing's wrong. Why can't you accept that I'm happy? Why do you always have to make everything about you and your worry and your need to control everything? I'm not trying to control you. I'm your mother. I love you. Then prove it. Leave me alone. She hung up. I sat in my car in the parking lot of a grocery store and cried until my eyes swelled shut. I told myself she was right. I was being overbearing. She was an adult. She needed space. I needed to let go. So I did. I stopped calling every day. I sent occasional texts that she rarely answered. I told myself this was normal, this was what happened when children grew up and moved away and built their own lives. I told myself the uneasiness in my gut was just a mother's paranoia. I told myself I was wrong about Marcus, about the coldness in his eyes, about the absence of Lily in his perfect apartment. I told myself everything was fine. Until the night I got the call from the police station. Until the night I saw my daughter in handcuffs. Until the night she looked at me with pure hatred and said she wished I was dead. The police officer's name was Detective Rivera. He had kind eyes but a hard mouth, the kind of face that had seen too much and believed too little. He sat across from me in a small interrogation room that smelled like industrial cleaner and desperation. A folder lay on the table between us, thick with papers I couldn't read from where I sat. Mrs. Mitchell, do you know why your daughter is being held? My hands were shaking so badly I had to press them flat against my thighs. The officer at the front said something about assault. But there's been a mistake. My daughter wouldn't hurt anyone. She's not violent. Detective Rivera opened the folder. Your daughter is being charged with aggravated assault against Marcus Chen. Do you know Mr. Chen? The name fell on me like a weight. Her boyfriend. I met him once. When was that? 6 months ago. Maybe 7. I went to his apartment looking for Lily. And what was your impression of him? I hesitated. How do you explain that feeling? That instinct that something is wrong even when you can't point to anything concrete? I didn't like him, I admitted. But I didn't have a real reason, just a feeling. Detective Rivera nodded like he'd heard this 1,000 times before. Mr. Chen called 911 at approximately 11:45 p.m. tonight. He reported that your daughter attacked him with a knife. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Mr. Chen with multiple lacerations on his arms and chest. Your daughter was still in the apartment, holding the weapon. The room tilted. No, that's not. Lily wouldn't. Mr. Chen states that your daughter has been increasingly unstable for weeks, paranoid, aggressive. He says he's been trying to help her, suggested she see a therapist, but that tonight she snapped without provocation. He says he loves her and doesn't want to press charges, but that he's afraid for his safety. I couldn't breathe. The air in the room was too thick, pressing against my lungs like concrete. That's a lie, I whispered. He's lying. Why would he lie, Mrs. Mitchell? I don't know. But my daughter, she's not what he's saying. She's gentle. She cries over dead birds. She wouldn't attack someone with a knife unless... I stopped. Unless what? Unless she had a reason? Unless she was defending herself? Detective Rivera leaned forward. Unless what? Can I see her? Please, I need to see her. I need to talk to her. She's made it clear she doesn't want to see you. Those words again, like a curse I couldn't break. I'm her mother. Please. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Detective Rivera studied me for a long moment. Then he stood up. 5 minutes. But if she asks you to leave, you leave. Understood? I nodded. He led me down a long hallway with fluorescent lights that buzzed like trapped insects. Every door we passed looked the same: heavy metal, small window, darkness beyond. He stopped at one and knocked twice. Miss Mitchell? Your mother would like to speak with you. Silence. Lily? My voice cracked. Baby, please, just 5 minutes. More silence. Then, I told them I don't want to see you. I know. But I'm here anyway. And I'm not leaving until you talk to me. A long pause. Then the sound of a chair scraping against concrete. Detective Rivera unlocked the door. Lily sat at a metal table, her hands no longer cuffed but her wrists red and raw where the metal had dug in. She wouldn't look at me. Her hair hung in front of her face like a curtain. 5 minutes, Detective Rivera said, then stepped outside, but left the door open. I sat down across from her slowly, like I was approaching a wounded animal. Lily, don't. Her voice was flat. Don't say my name like that. Like you care. I do care. I've always cared. You're my daughter. Then where were you? She looked up then, and I almost gasped. Her face was pale, gaunt, shadows under her eyes so deep they looked like bruises. She'd lost weight, too much weight. When had that happened? Where were you when I needed you? I'm right here. I've always been here. You weren't there. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face, but her voice staying perfectly level, perfectly controlled. You were never there. You were always working, always exhausted, always too busy to actually see me. I was working to provide for you, to give you everything you needed. I didn't need things, Mom. I needed you. I needed you to see that something was wrong. I needed you to save me. My heart was breaking apart in my chest, piece by piece. Save you from what? Lily, talk to me. Tell me what happened tonight. She laughed, that horrible broken laugh again. It doesn't matter what happened. It doesn't matter what I say. They'll believe him. They always believe him. Who? Marcus? She flinched at his name. Actually physically flinched like I'd hit her. Lily, did he hurt you? Time's up, Detective Rivera said from the doorway. No, wait. Mrs. Mitchell, you need to leave now. I didn't move. I kept my eyes locked on Lily's face, searching for something, anything that would help me understand. Did he hurt you? I asked again, quieter this time. Lily's hands were shaking. She pressed them flat against the table, mimicking what I'd done earlier. Like mother. Like daughter. He's smart, she whispered. He's so smart, Mom. He knows exactly what to say. He knows exactly how to make it look like I'm the crazy one. He's been planning this for months. Planning what? Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Rivera's voice was harder now. Planning to destroy me. Lily looked up at me, and for the first time I really saw it. The terror in her eyes, the exhaustion, the defeat. And he's going to win, because that's what guys like him do. They always win. Detective Rivera took my arm. I pulled away, but he held firm. Lily, I will fix this. I promise you, I will fix this. You can't fix this, Mom. Nobody can. They pulled me out of the room. The door closed with a sound like a coffin sealing shut. I stood in that hallway with my hands pressed against the cold metal, and I wanted to scream. Wanted to rip the door off its hinges. Wanted to go back in time and see what I'd missed, see what I'd been too blind or too tired or too stupid to notice. Mrs. Mitchell, Detective Rivera said gently, you need to go home. He hurt her, I said. My voice sounded strange, detached, like it was coming from someone else. Marcus Chen hurt my daughter. I don't know how or when, but he hurt her. And she defended herself. That's what happened tonight. Do you have any evidence of that? No, but I know my daughter. Mr. Chen has photographs of his injuries. He has text messages from your daughter threatening him. He has a statement from neighbors who heard screaming coming from his apartment, screaming that started before they heard him call for help. He set her up. Detective Rivera sighed. Mrs. Mitchell, I understand you want to believe your daughter, but right now the evidence points in one direction. If Miss Mitchell wants to claim self-defense, she'll need to prove it. And unless she has injuries, witnesses, or some kind of documentation. What about her injuries? He frowned. What injuries? You said if she has injuries. Does she? There were no visible injuries on your daughter when she was arrested. I felt something shift in my chest, a puzzle piece clicking into place. Did anyone actually examine her? Did anyone look? Detective Rivera was quiet for a moment. She refused medical examination. Why would she refuse? She said she didn't need it, that she wasn't hurt. But I remembered the way she'd flinched when I said Marcus's name. I remembered the weight she'd lost, the shadows under her eyes, the way she held herself, like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. I want her examined by a doctor, I said. A full examination. If she has injuries that aren't visible, there needs to be documentation. Mrs. Mitchell, I know my rights. She's being held in custody. She's entitled to medical care. I want her examined, now. Detective Rivera looked at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. I'll see what I can do. But you need to go home. There's nothing more you can do here tonight. I didn't want to leave. Every instinct screamed at me to stay, to fight, to break down that door and get my daughter out. But I knew he was right. There was nothing I could do here. Not yet. I drove home in a daze. The apartment felt emptier than it ever had. I sat on the couch, our couch, the one that sagged in the middle where we used to sit together, and I tried to think. Marcus Chen. Who was he really? What had he done to my daughter? I opened my laptop and started searching. Facebook first. His profile was public, filled with photos of him smiling, surrounded by friends, living what looked like a perfect life. The comments on his posts were full of praise. Great guy, so talented, lucky to know you. I scrolled back months, looking for any trace of Lily. Nothing, not a single photo, not a single mention. Like she didn't exist in his world. I tried Instagram next, same thing, Twitter, LinkedIn. Everywhere I looked, Marcus Chen was the picture of success star student, captain of the soccer team, volunteer at a homeless shelter. But Lily was nowhere. It was like he'd erased her completely. I stayed up all night, searching every corner of the internet I could think of. Police records, nothing. Court cases, nothing. Complaints, nothing. Marcus Chen was clean, perfect, untouchable. As the sun started to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that felt obscene in their beauty, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Mitchell? This is Dr. Angela Williams from County Hospital. I examined your daughter earlier this morning at the request of the police department. My heart stopped. Is she okay? A long pause. Mrs. Mitchell, when was the last time you saw your daughter without clothes on? The question was so strange it took me a moment to process it. I don't know. Years? She's an adult. She doesn't. Why are you asking me this? Because your daughter has extensive bruising across her torso, her ribs, her thighs. The bruises are in various stages of healing, which suggests repeated trauma over an extended period of time. She also has 3 fractured ribs that are partially healed, and evidence of old burn marks on her inner arms consistent with cigarette burns. The world stopped. Mrs. Mitchell, are you still there? I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Bruises. fractured ribs, burn marks. How long? How long had this been happening? How long had my daughter been living in hell while I sat in my apartment thinking everything was fine? Mrs. Mitchell, I've documented everything. I've taken photographs. This information will be passed along to the detective handling your daughter's case. But I wanted to call you first because... Dr. Williams's voice softened. Because she kept asking for you. She wouldn't let me examine her at first. She was terrified. But when I mentioned that you'd requested this, that you weren't going to leave her alone in this, she finally agreed. She kept whispering, "My mom knows. My mom sees me." Tears were streaming down my face. Can I talk to her? She's been sedated. The examination was difficult. But yes, once she wakes up, I'll make sure she knows you called. Tell her I'm coming. Tell her I'm not leaving her alone. Not ever again. I will. I hung up and sat there as the morning light grew stronger, streaming through the windows that didn't quite close all the way, and I thought about all the signs I'd missed, all the moments I'd dismissed as normal when they were actually silent screams for help. I thought about Marcus Chen's perfect apartment with no photos of Lily. I thought about the way she'd flinched at his name. I thought about her losing weight, her avoiding me, her changing from the girl who cried over dead birds into someone I barely recognized. And I made a decision. Marcus Chen thought he'd won. He thought he'd destroyed my daughter, isolated her, made everyone believe she was the unstable one. But he'd made one mistake. He'd underestimated what a mother would do for her child. The bruises were purple and yellow and green colors that shouldn't exist on human skin, colors that told stories I didn't want to hear but couldn't look away from. Detective Rivera laid out the photographs one by one on the metal table between us. We were back in that interrogation room, but this time I demanded to be here. This time I had evidence. These photos were taken by Dr. Williams during her examination, he said, his voice careful, professional. The bruising pattern suggests sustained physical abuse over several months. The fractured ribs are consistent with blunt force trauma. The burns. I don't need medical terminology, I interrupted. My voice was shaking, but I forced myself to keep looking at the photos, to bear witness to every mark on my daughter's body. I need to know what happens now. Detective Rivera closed the folder. The charges against your daughter have been dropped. Self-defense is clearly applicable here. We're opening an investigation into Marcus Chen. An investigation. The word tasted bitter. That's it? Mrs. Mitchell, I understand your frustration. Do you? I leaned forward. Do you understand what it's like to know that your daughter was being tortured for months and nobody saw it? That she came to a police station, was arrested, was put in handcuffs, and nobody thought to actually look at her, to check if she was hurt? We made a mistake, Detective Rivera admitted quietly. I made a mistake. Mr. Chen's story was convincing. He had evidence. He had witnesses. And your daughter... He paused. Your daughter wouldn't talk. She shut down completely, refused to explain what happened, refused to defend herself. Because she was terrified, I said. Because he'd probably told her that nobody would believe her anyway. And you know what? He was right. You didn't believe her. You believed him. Detective Rivera looked down at his hands. You're right, and I apologize. But we're taking this seriously now. We're interviewing Mr. Chen. We're talking to his neighbors, his friends, your daughter's roommate. We're building a case. How long will that take? These investigations take time. How long? Weeks, maybe months. I stood up. The chair scraped against the concrete floor with a sound like nails on a chalkboard. Where is he now? Mrs. Mitchell. Where is Marcus Chen right now? Detective Rivera stood too. He's been brought in for questioning. but unless we can find more evidence, we'll have to release him. The injuries your daughter inflicted on him are real. She did attack him with a knife. Even if it was self-defense, we need more than just her word against his. You have the bruises, the fractures, the burns, which his lawyer will argue could have come from anywhere, from anyone. They'll say she's making accusations to justify her own violent behavior. They'll paint her as unstable, vindictive, and without witnesses or additional evidence. He trailed off. I understood what he wasn't saying. Marcus Chen was going to walk free. He was going to tell his story, the story of a good guy trying to help his troubled girlfriend, a saint who didn't even want to press charges despite being stabbed, and people would believe him. Because that's what guys like him did. They were smart, careful. They left no evidence except on the bodies of the women they hurt, in places nobody thought to look. I want to see her, I said. She's still at the hospital. Dr. Williams is keeping her for observation. Then I'm going to the hospital. I left the police station and drove across town with my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The morning had turned into afternoon gray clouds rolling in, threatening rain. The kind of weather that matched the storm in my chest. County Hospital was a sprawling complex that always smelled like antiseptic and sadness. I'd been here when Lily was born. I'd been here when she broke her arm falling off the monkey bars in 3rd grade. I'd been here too many times, but never like this. Never knowing that she'd been suffering and I'd been blind to it. A nurse directed me to room 427. I stood outside the door for a long moment, my hand on the handle, trying to prepare myself for what I'd see on the other side. Nothing could have prepared me. Lily lay in the hospital bed, small and pale against white sheets. An IV dripped clear fluid into her arm. Monitors beeped softly. Her eyes were closed, but I could tell she wasn't sleeping. Her breathing was too quick, too shallow. Lily? Her eyes opened. For a moment she just stared at me, like she wasn't sure I was real. Mom? I crossed the room and took her hand carefully, gently, like she might break if I held on too tight. Maybe she would. Maybe she'd already been broken. I'm here, baby, I'm here. She started to cry, not the angry, bitter tears from the police station. These were different, softer, sadder, like something inside her had finally cracked open. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry, Mom. No. I squeezed her hand. No, you don't get to apologize. None of this is your fault. I should have told you. I should have come home. I should have... He hurt you. I said it clearly, firmly, so there could be no doubt. Marcus Chen hurt you, and that is not your fault. Do you understand me? None of this is your fault. She sobbed harder. I climbed onto the hospital bed carefully, mindful of the IV and the monitors, and held her like I used to when she was small and had nightmares, like I should have been doing all along. Tell me, I said quietly. Tell me everything. She was silent for a long time. The monitors beeped. Outside the window, rain started to fall. It started small, she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. Little things. He'd get angry if I didn't text him back right away. He'd accuse me of flirting with other guys, even when I was just being nice. He'd show up at my classes uninvited and get upset if I wasn't happy to see him. I kept my arms around her and let her talk. I thought it was just because he cared so much, you know, because he loved me. That's what he said. That he loved me so much it made him crazy, and I believed him. When did it turn physical? She flinched. 4 months ago, maybe 5. I don't remember exactly. Everything kind of blurs together. I said something that made him angry, I don't even remember what. Something stupid. And he pushed me against the wall. Not hard. Just enough to scare me. Then he apologized. He cried. He said he was so sorry, that it would never happen again, that he didn't know what came over him. But it did happen again, over and over. Each time a little worse. A push became a shove, became a slap, became a punch, and every time he'd apologize after, he'd buy me flowers, he'd take me to nice restaurants, he'd tell me he loved me, and that I was the only good thing in his life, and please, please don't leave him because he couldn't survive without me. My heart was breaking into smaller and smaller pieces. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was ashamed. Her voice cracked. Because I'm studying to be a social worker, Mom. I know the signs of abuse. I've studied it in class. I've written papers about it. How could I be so stupid? How could I not see what was happening until it was too late? You're not stupid. Abusers are good at what they do. They're experts at making you think it's your fault, that you deserve it, that nobody will believe you. He said that. She looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. He said if I ever told anyone, nobody would believe me. Because he's Marcus Chen, star student, soccer captain, volunteer, and I'm just some girl from a broken home with a single mom who works at a diner. Who's going to believe me over him? I believe you. But nobody else will. The police didn't believe me. Even when they saw the knife in my hand and Marcus bleeding, they still thought I was the bad guy. Because he's so good at acting. He called 911 crying, telling them I'd snapped, that he was scared for his life. And when the cops showed up, he had the perfect story. He'd spent weeks setting it up, sending himself threatening texts from my phone, recording videos of me crying and yelling at him without showing what he'd done to make me react that way, telling his friends that he was worried about me, that I was getting unstable. What happened last night? What made you finally fight back? She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke again, her voice was so soft I had to lean close to hear it. He told me he was going to kill me. The words hung in the air between us. He'd been getting worse for weeks. More violent, more angry, less careful about leaving marks. And last night, he came home drunk. I'd burned dinner, the pan got too hot and the smoke alarm went off. Such a stupid thing. But he went crazy. He started hitting me, and he wouldn't stop. I was on the floor, and he was kicking me, and I just knew that if I didn't do something, I was going to die right there in his apartment. The knife was on the counter. I'd been chopping vegetables. I grabbed it. I didn't even think. I couldn't let him kill me, Mom. I couldn't. So I fought back. She started sobbing again, her whole body shaking. I stabbed him. I actually stabbed him. What kind of person does that make me? It makes you a survivor. I held her tighter. It makes you someone who fought for your life. And I am so proud of you. But he's going to get away with it, isn't he? He's going to tell everyone I'm crazy, that I attacked him for no reason. And people will believe him because that's what people do. They believe the person who seems normal, the person who hasn't been beaten down and broken, the person who knows how to smile and lie. I pulled back enough to look at her face. He's not going to get away with it. Mom, you can't. Listen to me. My voice came out harder than I intended. Marcus Chen made a mistake. He hurt my daughter. He thought he could get away with it because he's smart and careful and knows how to manipulate people, but he forgot one thing. What? He forgot about me. He forgot that you have a mother who will burn the whole world down before she lets him hurt you again. Lily looked at me with something like hope flickering in her eyes. What are you going to do? I'm going to prove what he did. I'm going to find evidence. I'm going to find witnesses. I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who Marcus Chen really is. How? I didn't know. Not yet. But I would figure it out. Leave that to me, I said. Right now, you need to rest. You need to heal. and you need to know that you're not alone anymore. I'm here, and I'm not going anywhere." She closed her eyes, exhausted. Within minutes, she was asleep, real sleep this time, not the tense half-consciousness from before. I stayed with her, holding her hand, watching her breathe. And I thought about Marcus Chen, about his perfect apartment, his perfect life, his perfect lies. He thought he was smart, thought he'd covered all his bases, but he'd never met a mother on a mission. I kissed Lily's forehead and whispered, "I'm going to fix this, baby, I promise." Then I left the hospital and started planning war. Woo. Escalation. The war between truth and power. Marcus Chen lived in a world of perfection. I was going to tear it apart. I started with his apartment building. Not to confront him, I was smarter than that. I went during the day when I knew he'd be at the police station giving his statement. I wanted to talk to his neighbors, the people who lived above him, below him, on either side, the people who heard things through thin walls. The building was nice, too nice for a college student unless Daddy was paying the bills. Marble lobby, doorman in a uniform, the kind of place that screamed money. I approached the doorman with my best exhausted mother smile. "Hi, I'm Sarah Mitchell. My daughter Lily lives in 4B with her boyfriend Marcus. I'm trying to reach her but her phone is off. Could you buzz me up?" The doorman, his name tag said Jerome, looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, I heard about what happened last night," the police said. "The police don't know the whole story." I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "Look, I know something happened, but my daughter, she's not violent. She's never been violent. If she hurt Marcus, there was a reason, and I think the people in this building might know what that reason was." Jerome glanced around, then leaned forward too. "I can't let you up without Mr. Chen's permission." "I'm not asking you to let me up. I'm asking if you noticed anything. Strange noises from 4B, arguments, anything." He hesitated then. "I work nights mostly, midnight to 8 a.m., and yeah, I've heard things." My heart started pounding. "What kind of things?" "Yelling, crying, things breaking, always late at night, like he waited until he thought nobody would hear. But sound carries in these buildings, you know, especially through the ventilation." "Did you ever call the police?" He looked ashamed. "Mr. Chen's father owns this building, ma'am. I can't afford to lose this job. I've got 3 kids." I understood. Of course I understood. Marcus Chen came from money, from power, from the kind of privilege that let you hurt people without consequences. What about the other neighbors? Did they ever complain? A few times. Mrs. Alvarez in 3B called the super once about the noise, but nothing ever came of it. "Can you give me Mrs. Alvarez's apartment number?" Jerome shook his head. "I really can't. But," he glanced at the elevator, "she usually gets home from work around 5 p.m. I checked my watch. 3 hours. I went to a coffee shop across the street and waited. At 4:45, I positioned myself in the lobby. At 5:03, an elderly woman with silver hair and kind eyes walked in carrying grocery bags. "Mrs. Alvarez?" She looked startled. "Yes? My name is Sarah Mitchell. I'm Lily's mother from apartment 4B. I was hoping I could talk to you for a moment." Her expression changed immediately from suspicion to something like sympathy. "Oh, that poor girl. Come, help me with these bags. We can talk upstairs." Her apartment was warm and cluttered, filled with photographs of grandchildren and the smell of something delicious simmering on the stove. "Sit," she said, gesturing to a floral couch. "I'll make tea. Mrs. Alvarez, I don't want to take up too much of your time." "Nonsense. This is important." She busied herself in the kitchen, and a few minutes later returned with 2 cups of tea and a plate of cookies. "Now, what do you want to know?" You called about noise from Marcus Chen's apartment. She nodded grimly. More than once. That boy. She shook her head. He seems so nice, so polite. Always holds the elevator door, always says good morning. But the things I heard coming from that apartment. What did you hear? Yelling. Mostly him. Screaming at her, calling her terrible names. And crying. So much crying. And thuds. Like something or someone hitting walls. She looked at me with sadness in her eyes. I knew what was happening. I'm not stupid. I've been alive 73 years. I know what abuse sounds like. Did you ever see Lily? See any injuries? A few times. Always covered up, even in summer. Long sleeves, scarves. Once I saw a bruise on her arm, yellow, like it was healing. I asked if she was okay. She said she'd fallen. Did you believe her? No. But what could I do? She's an adult. She said she was fine, and he was always there, always hovering, always smiling, that smile of his. She shuddered. I called the police once, about the noise. They came, knocked on the door. Marcus answered, all charm and apologies. Said they'd been watching a movie, got too loud. Wouldn't happen again. The officers left. And the next night, the yelling was worse. I felt sick. Did you tell the building management? The super came once, talked to Marcus. Marcus complained about me being a nosy old woman who hated young people. The super told me to mind my own business. She sipped her tea. That boy's father owns this building and half the city. Nobody wants to cross the Chen family. The Chen family. Of course. Money didn't just buy nice apartments, it bought silence. Mrs. Alvarez, would you be willing to make a statement? Tell the police what you heard. She was quiet for a moment. Will it help that girl? Your daughter? Yes. Then yes, I'll tell them everything. She set down her teacup with determination. I should have done more. I should have kept calling. I should have. You did what you could in a system that protects people like him. I stood up. Thank you. Can I get your phone number? The detective will want to talk to you. She wrote it down on a notepad shaped like a flower. As I was leaving, she caught my arm. Mrs. Mitchell? Your daughter is lucky to have you. Tell her that. Tell her, Mrs. Alvarez says she's braver than she knows. I left that apartment with a tiny spark of hope. One witness. One voice willing to speak up. I needed more. Over the next 3 days, I became an investigator. I talked to everyone who might know something about Marcus Chen. His roommate from freshman year, his ex-girlfriend from high school, his professors, his soccer teammates. Most people had nothing but praise. Great guy. Real leader. Wouldn't hurt a fly. But a precious few, were willing to dig deeper. His ex-girlfriend, Christina Park, met me at a Starbucks near campus. She was small and nervous, her hands wrapped around a coffee cup like it was a lifeline. I only agreed to meet because you said it was about Lily, she said without preamble. Is she okay? She's alive. That's about all I can say right now. Christina nodded like she understood. Marcus and I dated for 2 years in high school. He was my first boyfriend. I thought I loved him. What happened? He got jealous. Started checking my phone. Started showing up places I hadn't told him I'd be. Started getting angry when I wanted to spend time with friends instead of him. She swirled her coffee. Then one day, I told him I wanted to break up, and he grabbed my throat. I went very still. He didn't choke me, not really, just squeezed enough to scare me, to show me he could. Then he let go and apologized, said he'd been stressed about college applications, said it would never happen again. But it did. 3 more times. Each time a little worse. The last time, he pushed me down a flight of stairs, told everyone I'd tripped, even told me I'd tripped. Over and over. until I started to believe it myself. Did you ever report it? She laughed bitterly. His father plays golf with the police chief. What do you think would have happened? I understood that too. Why did you finally leave? My mom saw the bruises, forced me to tell her what was happening. She threatened to go to the media if the Chen family didn't back off. So they made a deal I'd transfer to a different school, and we'd never speak about what happened. Marcus got to keep his perfect reputation, and I got to escape with my life. Would you be willing to testify about what he did to you? She paled. I signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. If I talk about it, my family could lose everything. The Chens made sure of that. Even if it means stopping him from hurting someone else? Christina looked down at her coffee. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. But I can't. I have a little sister starting high school next year. My parents used the Chen settlement to pay off their mortgage. If I break the NDA, we'll be destroyed. I wanted to be angry. But I understood. That's how men like Marcus Chen operated. They didn't just hurt you. They made it impossible for you to speak up without losing everything. Can you at least tell me if there were others? Other girls he hurt? She bit her lip. There was a girl, our junior year. Emma something. She transferred schools suddenly. And there were rumors about a college freshman last year, but I don't know her name. It was something. Not enough, but something. I spent hours online, digging through old social media posts, local news, anything that might connect Marcus to other complaints. I found Emma Torres through an old class photo. I found the freshman Ashley Kim through a deleted Instagram post Christina had screenshotted before her account went private. I reached out to both. Emma never responded. Ashley agreed to a phone call. He didn't hit me, she said. Her voice was shaking. But he would trap me in his apartment, lock the door, stand in front of it so I couldn't leave. He'd yell at me for hours about things I'd supposedly done wrong. Then he'd act like nothing happened. Did you report it? I told my RA. She said it sounded like a relationship problem, not a safety issue. I told my parents. They said I should just break up with him. So I did. And he showed up at my dorm room at 2 a.m. crying, begging me to take him back, saying he'd kill himself if I didn't. What did you do? I called campus security. They talked to him. He told them I was overreacting, that he was just upset about the breakup. They believed him. And the next day, someone slashed my tires. I can't prove it was him, but... She trailed off. Would you be willing to make a statement? Will it actually do anything? Or will his family just make it all go away like they always do? That was the question, wasn't it? How do you fight someone whose family has the power to erase their crimes? I'm going to try, I said. I'm going to try as hard as I can to make sure he faces consequences this time. Then yes, I'll make a statement. Someone needs to stop him before he actually kills someone. By the end of the week, I had 4 witnesses willing to talk. Mrs. Alvarez, Jerome the doorman, Ashley Kim, and a soccer teammate named Devin Wright who'd seen Marcus lose his temper during practice and punch a freshman hard enough to break his nose. It wasn't enough to guarantee conviction, but it was enough to show a pattern. I brought everything to Detective Rivera. He sat across from me in that same interrogation room and looked through my folder notes, phone numbers, statements I'd written down. Mrs. Mitchell, you understand that most of this is hearsay? That it won't necessarily be admissible in court. I understand that you need to investigate these claims. Talk to these people yourself. Build a real case. He was quiet for a moment. You did good work here. Real detective work. But you need to understand something. Marcus Chen's family has resources. They have lawyers. They have connections. This isn't going to be easy. I don't care if it's easy. I care if it's right. Detective Rivera smiled slightly. Okay, I'll interview your witnesses. I'll keep building the case. But Mrs. Mitchell? His expression turned serious. You need to be careful. Men like Marcus Chen don't like being backed into corners. If he thinks you're a threat, what's he going to do? I'm not some college girl he can intimidate. He has resources. He has a family that will protect him at all costs. He could make your life very difficult. I stood up. Let him try. He already made the biggest mistake of his life. What's that? He hurt my daughter. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks after Lily's arrest. 3 weeks of hell. Waiting to see if the charges against her would be dropped completely or if she'd have to stand trial. 3 weeks of Marcus Chen walking free, posting on social media about staying strong through false accusations, receiving supportive comments from people who had no idea who he really was. 3 weeks of watching Lily heal physically while breaking emotionally, convinced that justice would never come for people like us. The morning of the hearing, I helped Lily get dressed. She'd lost so much weight that her clothes hung off her frame. The bruises had faded to yellow and green, barely visible now except in the photos Dr. Williams had taken. What if they don't believe me? Lily whispered as I buttoned her blouse. What if they look at him, and look at me, and decide he's telling the truth? Then we keep fighting. I'm tired, Mom. I'm so tired of fighting. I took her face in my hands. I know, baby, but you don't have to fight alone anymore. I'm right here with you. The courthouse was massive and cold, all marble and echoes and the smell of old wood and older secrets. We sat on a hard bench outside the courtroom, waiting to be called in. Across the hallway, Marcus sat with his parents and a lawyer who probably cost more than I made in a year. Marcus looked different than I remembered. Polished, professional, a bandage on his arm where Lily had stabbed him visible enough to garner sympathy, small enough to not look too dramatic. He caught me looking and smiled. Actually smiled, like we were old friends. That smile made me want to tear him apart with my bare hands. Mrs. Mitchell? Detective Rivera appeared beside us. Can I talk to you for a moment? We stepped away from Lily. Detective Rivera looked tired, like he hadn't slept in days. We have a problem, he said quietly. My stomach dropped. What kind of problem? 2 of your witnesses have recanted their statements, Jerome the doorman and Devin Wright. They're now saying they were mistaken, that they didn't actually see or hear anything definitive. That's impossible. I talked to them myself. The Chen family got to them, offered money, made threats. I don't know the details, but they're out. I wanted to scream. Wanted to put my fist through the marble wall. What about the others? Mrs. Alvarez is solid. She won't be intimidated. And Ashley Kim is still willing to testify. But it's not enough. The judge might decide there's insufficient evidence to proceed with charges against Mr. Chen. What about Lily's injuries? The photographs? His lawyer is arguing that the injuries could have come from anyone, that your daughter has a history of mental instability. They're bringing up her school therapist, twisting things she said during sessions. They're painting her as someone with a persecution complex who invented an abuse narrative to justify attempted murder. Everything was falling apart. Everything I'd worked for, every witness I'd found, every piece of evidence I'd gathered, the Chen family was dismantling it all with money and power and connections. There has to be something else, I said desperately. There has to be proof we're missing. If there is, we haven't found it. I'm sorry, Mrs. Mitchell. We're going to try our best in there, but you need to prepare for the possibility that... No. I cut him off. No, I'm not preparing for defeat. We're going to win this. Mrs. Mitchell, give me a minute. I walked back to Lily. She looked up at me with frightened eyes. What's wrong? I knelt down in front of her. I need you to think very carefully. Is there any evidence? Anything at all that proves what Marcus did to you? Text messages, voicemails, videos, anything he might not have been able to delete or destroy? She shook her head slowly. He was so careful. He'd make me delete messages. He'd check my phone constantly. He controlled everything. Think, Lily, please. There has to be something. She was quiet for a long moment, her eyes distant. Then suddenly, she grabbed my arm. The laptop. What laptop? Marcus's laptop. He used to record things, videos of me crying, audio of arguments. He said it was to help me see how irrational I was being. He'd play them back for me, show me how crazy I sounded. But Mom, he didn't know I saw the files. There were dozens of them. Other videos too, from before me. He kept them all in a folder. My heart was racing. Where's the laptop now? In his apartment. In his desk drawer. He keeps everything password protected, but... She hesitated. But what? I know the password. He made me memorize it so I could access his school files when he needed me to. It's his mother's birthday. I stood up and pulled out my phone, calling Detective Rivera back over. There's evidence, I said quickly. On Marcus Chen's laptop. Videos. Audio files. Proof of everything he did. We can't search his apartment without a warrant, Detective Rivera said, and to get a warrant, we need probable cause. Right now, we don't have enough. Then get enough. Talk to Ashley Kim again. Get her to detail everything. Use Mrs. Alvarez's testimony. Use the medical evidence. Do whatever you have to do, but get that laptop. Detective Rivera looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. I'll try. But even if we get a warrant, he might have time to delete everything before we get there. An idea was forming in my head. A terrible, risky, probably illegal idea. What time is the hearing? I asked. 1 hour. And how long would it take to get a warrant if you started the process right now? If the judge approves it? Maybe 3 hours. Which meant Marcus would be in court for the hearing. Which meant his apartment would be empty. File for the warrant, I said. Right now. Mrs. Mitchell, what are you thinking? I didn't answer. I couldn't tell him what I was thinking because he'd have to try to stop me. Instead, I turned to Lily. I need you to write down Marcus's address, his apartment number, and his laptop password. She stared at me. Mom, what are you going to do? Something stupid. But maybe it'll work. You can't break into his apartment. You'll get arrested. Better me than you. I squeezed her hand. Trust me, baby. One more time. Trust me. Lily wrote down the information with shaking hands. I took the paper and turned to leave. Mrs. Mitchell. Detective Rivera caught my arm. Don't do this. Let us handle it the right way. The right way hasn't been working out so well for us. I pulled free. Just get that warrant. And stall the hearing as long as you can. I walked out of the courthouse before anyone could stop me. Marcus Chen's apartment was exactly as I remembered it, too perfect, too clean, no trace of Lily anywhere. I'd used the spare key I'd found in Lily's jacket pocket, the one Marcus had given her in case of emergencies. This felt like an emergency. The desk drawer was locked. Of course it was. I used a letter opener from the kitchen, jimmying the lock until it clicked open. The laptop was there, silver and sleek, and holding all of Marcus Chen's secrets. I opened it. Password screen. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely type. I entered Marcus's mother's birthday, the 13th of May, 1969. The screen unlocked. I navigated to the Documents folder, then to a subfolder marked Personal. Inside were dozens of files, videos, audio files, documents. I clicked on the first video. Lily's face appeared on screen. She was crying, her makeup smeared, her eyes wild. "Please," she was saying. "Please, Marcus. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make you angry. I'll do better, I promise." The camera was steady, like Marcus had set it up on purpose. His voice came from off-screen. "Do you see how crazy you're acting right now? Do you see how irrational you are? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Say it again. Say you're crazy. I'm crazy. I'm sorry. Please don't." The video cut off. I clicked on another one. And another. Each one worse than the last. Videos of Lily crying, begging, apologizing for things that weren't her fault. Audio files of Marcus screaming at her, calling her names I won't repeat, and worse, much worse videos from before Lily. Other girls, Christina Park, Ashley Kim, girls I didn't recognize. And in every video, Marcus's voice was calm, controlled, deliberately provoking reactions so he could record them, deliberately creating evidence that these girls were unstable. My hands were still shaking, but now it was from rage, not fear. I pulled out my phone and started taking photos of the screen. Every file name, every video thumbnail, every piece of evidence I could document. Then I heard the door open. I froze. Footsteps in the hallway. Marcus's voice. "I told you, the judge is probably going to dismiss everything. This whole thing is a waste of time." Another voice, his lawyer. "We still need to be there. Don't let your guard down. I just need to grab something from my apartment first. Give me 2 minutes." I looked around frantically. The apartment was open concept, nowhere to hide. The bedroom was too far away. The bathroom wasn't an option. The door started to open. I did the only thing I could think of. I grabbed the laptop and ran for the balcony. "What the hell?" Marcus's voice behind me, shocked and angry. I was already outside, 4 stories up, with nowhere to go and a laptop full of evidence clutched to my chest. Marcus appeared in the doorway to the balcony, his perfect face twisted into something ugly. "Mrs. Mitchell, breaking and entering? That's a felony." He smiled that same horrible smile from the courthouse. "Give me my laptop." "No. Give it to me now, or I call the police and have you arrested for burglary, and then who's going to help your daughter?" He was right. Of course he was right. If I got arrested, Lily would be alone. Everything I'd worked for would be destroyed. But if I gave him the laptop, he'd delete everything, and we'd have no proof. "I've already documented everything," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I took photos. Even if you delete the files, we have proof they existed." "Photos of a computer screen?" Marcus laughed. "That'll never hold up in court. My lawyers will argue it was photoshopped, fabricated. You broke into my apartment, stole my laptop, and created fake evidence to support your daughter's lies." He was probably right about that too. "Why?" I asked. My back was pressed against the balcony railing. "Why did you do this to her?" "To all of them." "Because I could." His smile widened. "Because girls like your daughter are so desperate to be loved that they'll believe anything. They'll take any amount of abuse and convince themselves it's their fault. It's pathetic, really. You're sick. I'm successful. There's a difference." He took a step closer. "Now give me my laptop before you do something else stupid. The fall from this balcony would be pretty bad. 4 stories. You'd probably survive, but you'd never walk right again." He wasn't even pretending anymore. The mask was completely off. "Marcus Chen." Detective Rivera's voice boomed from inside the apartment. "Step away from her, now." Marcus's face went pale. He turned to see 3 police officers entering his apartment, Detective Rivera in the lead. "You can't be here," Marcus sputtered. You don't have a warrant. We do now. Detective Rivera held up a paper. Issued 20 minutes ago, and we've been listening to this whole conversation through Mrs. Mitchell's phone, which she left connected to mine. So thank you for the confession about creating fake evidence and manipulating victims. That's going to make our case much easier. My phone. I'd called Detective Rivera before entering the apartment and left the line open. I'd forgotten about it completely in my panic, but apparently he'd been listening the whole time. Marcus's lawyer pushed past the officers. My client won't be answering any more questions. He doesn't have to. Detective Rivera took the laptop from my shaking hands. Mrs. Mitchell, you need to come with us too. You did break into this apartment, which is technically illegal, but given the circumstances and the evidence we're finding. He looked at Marcus with disgust. I think we can work something out. They arrested Marcus Chen right there in his perfect apartment. Read him his rights while his lawyer sputtered about illegal search and seizure, handcuffed him while he screamed that his father would make this all go away. But this time, it wouldn't go away, because this time, we had proof. 6 months later, Lily laughed at something on her phone, a real laugh, the kind that made her whole face light up. We were sitting in our small apartment, the one with pipes that clanked and windows that didn't quite close. The same apartment we'd always lived in. But somehow it felt different now. What's funny? I asked, looking up from the job applications I'd been filling out. Ashley Kim just got accepted to law school. She says she's going to specialize in domestic violence cases. Lily showed me her phone. She says Marcus getting convicted changed her life, made her realize she could fight back. Marcus Chen had been sentenced to 8 years in prison 2 months ago. The evidence from his laptop had been overwhelming, not just videos of Lily, but of Christina, Ashley, and 3 other girls we hadn't even known about. Girls who'd stayed silent because they thought no one would believe them. They'd all testified. Every single one of them stood up in that courtroom and told their stories. And the jury had believed them. That's amazing, I said, and meant it. Lily set down her phone and looked at me. Mom, I've been thinking. About? About going back to school. Finishing my degree. Really. I tried to keep the hope out of my voice, but I failed miserably. I want to be a social worker. I still want that. Maybe more now than before. She twisted her hands together, a nervous habit she developed. I want to help people like us. People who think they're alone. People who think no one will believe them. You'd be incredible at that. I'm scared though, her voice dropped. What if I can't do it? What if I'm too broken? I moved to sit beside her on the couch, our couch that sagged in the middle. You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference. It still hurts sometimes. I still have nightmares. I still flinch when someone raises their voice. That's normal. That's trauma. It doesn't mean you're broken, it means you survived something terrible. And surviving is the bravest thing you can do. She leaned her head on my shoulder, just like she used to when she was small. I'm sorry, Mom, for everything I said that night. For telling you I wished you were dead. I didn't mean it. I was just... I know. I wrapped my arm around her. You were hurt and scared, and you'd been told for so long that I wouldn't help you, that nobody would help you. You believed it. I don't blame you for that. But I should have known better. You're my mom. You've always been there, except when it mattered most. The guilt was still there, probably would always be there. I should have seen what was happening. I should have looked closer. He was good at hiding it, and I was good at pretending everything was fine. She sat up to look at me. Mom, it wasn't your fault. I need you to believe that. Marcus was the one who hurt me, not you. We sat in silence for a while, just being together. The pipes clanked, the window rattled in the wind. everything was normal and familiar and safe. "Mrs. Alvarez invited us for dinner next week," I said eventually. "She's making something called ropa vieja." "The neighbor who testified?" Lily smiled. "I'd like to meet her." "She'd like to meet you too. She's been asking about you constantly." My phone buzzed. A text from Detective Rivera. "Check your email. Some news." I opened my laptop, Lily reading over my shoulder. The email was from the district attorney's office. "Mrs. Mitchell, as you know, Marcus Chen's conviction was based largely on the evidence found on his laptop. Following his sentencing, we've been contacted by 7 additional women who say Mr. Chen assaulted or harassed them over the past 5 years. They're all willing to testify if necessary. While Mr. Chen is already serving his sentence, these additional testimonies have helped us identify a pattern of behavior that extends further than we initially realized. The Chen family has also agreed to a civil settlement with all victims, including your daughter. More importantly, your daughter's case has become somewhat of a catalyst. We're implementing new training for police officers on how to properly assess domestic violence situations. We're also working with the university to create better reporting systems for students. Your persistence in seeking justice may have saved lives, Mrs. Mitchell. Thank you." I read the email twice, then a third time. Lily was crying silently beside me, tears streaming down her face. 7 more, she whispered. 7 more women he hurt. 7 more women who are speaking up because you spoke up first. Because you survived and fought back and refused to stay silent. I didn't feel brave. I felt terrified. Bravery isn't the absence of fear. It's being terrified and doing the right thing anyway. She wiped her eyes. "Do you think it'll actually change anything? The police training and the university policies?" "I think it's a start. It won't fix everything. It won't erase what happened to you or to any of those other women. But maybe the next girl who needs help will actually get it." "I hope so." Lily took a shaky breath. "Mom, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why didn't you give up? When the witnesses recanted and the lawyers said we'd lose and everyone was telling you to let it go, why did you keep fighting?" I thought about that night in the police station when Lily said she wished I was dead. I thought about every moment I'd failed to see what was happening to her. I thought about the promise I'd made when she was born. "I will always keep you safe. Because you're my daughter," I said simply. "And mothers don't abandon their children. Not when it matters. Not ever." Lily started crying harder. I held her while she cried, not the desperate, broken sobs from before, but the kind of crying that washes things clean, the kind that leads to healing. Eventually, she calmed down. "What are you going to do with the settlement money?" The Chen family had paid a substantial sum to avoid a civil trial, hush money, basically, though they'd never call it that. Enough to pay off debts and maybe, just maybe, start fresh. "I was thinking," I said slowly, "that maybe we could use some of it to start a foundation. Something to help other women in situations like yours. Legal fees, counseling, safe housing, all the things you needed but couldn't access." Lily's eyes widened. "Really? You and I both know what it's like to feel powerless. Maybe we can use that experience to help others feel less alone." "We could call it the Broken Silence Foundation," Lily suggested, "for all the women whose voices get ignored." "I like that." We spent the rest of the evening planning, sketching out ideas, researching other organizations, dreaming about the future. It felt good to build something instead of just surviving. It felt good to hope. As the sun set outside our imperfect windows, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, I realized something. We were going to be okay. Not today, maybe not tomorrow, but eventually, because we'd survived the worst. We'd stared down evil and won, and if we could do that, we could do anything. If you've made it this far, you've witnessed a story that's uncomfortably real. Not because it's my exact story, but because it's someone's story. Maybe it's your story. Maybe it's your daughter's, your sister's, your friend's story. Maybe you're living it right now. I want you to know something, and I need you to hear this. Silence isn't weakness. When you're trapped in a situation where speaking up could cost you everything, your safety, your home, your life, staying silent is survival. It's strategy. It's self-preservation. And nobody has the right to judge you for it. But I also want you to know this. When you're ready, if you're ready, there are people who will believe you. People who will fight for you. People who won't give up even when it seems hopeless. You are not alone. You are not crazy. You are not imagining it. And you are not responsible for someone else's decision to hurt you. The Marcus Chens of the world are counting on your silence. They're counting on you, thinking that no one will believe you, that you're too broken to fight back, that their money and power and perfect smiles will protect them forever. They're wrong. It took me almost losing my daughter to understand that. It took her nearly dying to realize that the worst violence isn't always the bruises you can see, it's the ones hidden beneath long sleeves and fake smiles, and the lie that everything is fine. If you're reading this and something in your gut is screaming that your situation isn't normal, that the person who claims to love you shouldn't make you feel this way, that fear shouldn't be part of a healthy relationship, listen to that voice. If you're reading this as a parent, a friend, a teacher, a neighbor, look closer, ask questions. Don't accept "I'm fine" when everything else says otherwise. Create space for truth. Believe women when they tell you something's wrong. And if you're reading this as someone who's on the other side, who survived, who escaped, who fought back and won, share your story. Not because you owe anyone an explanation, but because your voice might be the one that gives someone else permission to speak up. One voice can start a revolution. One story can save a life. One mother refusing to give up can take down a monster. The battle isn't over. There are still too many Marcus Chens walking free, too many women suffering in silence, too many systems designed to protect the powerful instead of the vulnerable. But every story shared, every voice raised, every person who refuses to stay silent chips away at that system. So I'm asking you, don't stay silent.